Hey folks, welcome back to DCS. Sorry it's been a while, but hopefully this video will help to make up for it a little bit. So today we're going to be flying the F1, mostly on the Germany map, on the newish Contention Cold War server. So initially upon joining the server I actually had a bit of a ground pound itch, and I really wanted to give the rockets a go with the F1 because I don't think I've actually covered them yet on the channel. Ground pounding is always going to be a better way of seeing the map's colour palette, attention to detail, the terrain variation, you know, that kind of thing. It's a better way to appreciate the map than dogfighting is, because obviously in dogfighting you're just kind of paying attention to, well, the sky. But rockets are a really good pick for this server because it's not a modern server, so there's not a lot of like tanks or heavy armour. Most of the targets are quite squishy, so dumb weapons become a lot more viable. It's kind of become a dumb weapon ground pound playground, so conditions seem perfect to give the rockets a go. However, through a mix of rust, I didn't flick the master arm switch because I'm a div. The enemy team's uncooperative nature. Oh my god, this is insane. Maneuver kill. And the particular persistence of a certain DCS streamer. It was true. I knew it'd be tricky. I instead found myself flying cap because there was an enormous blue stack all night and I couldn't get through the wall of their fighters to reach anything that I could actually hit on the ground anyway. So a few months ago I stumbled across a discussion on Reddit about the F1 versus the Phantom within DCS, obviously, debating which one people think is the better dogfighter. And on that discussion thread I stated my piece in support of the F1, but there were enough people singing the Phantom's praises that it made me question my own position. I'll put a link in the description so that you can check it out for yourself, but it led me to the creation of this video where I flew the Phantom against the F1, amongst other things, and weighed up the points people made on the Reddit thread. However, despite seeing the merits of the Phantom and being able to hold my own quite comfortably when flying it, I do still think the F1 is the better of the two. Or at least it's the one I'd put my money on in a 1 versus 1, maybe against other opponents. I could see it going either way, but Phantom versus F1, I do think the F1 has a bit of an edge, and today's video will be showcasing why I think that. There's essentially two main reasons that I side with the F1, the fuel endurance and the one circle performance. The Phantom can't beat the F1 in a one circle fight. The Phantom is too heavy to get slow, so it's limited to a rate fight, but it isn't dominant by enough for that to guarantee it a victory over the F1, especially because the later stages of the traditional two circle fight open up the potential for the F1 to reverse into the one circle in order to force the overshoot. But bullet. No one's forcing the Phantom to stick with the one circle when that happens. No, they're not, you're right. But this is where the Phantom's fuel is a frankly enormous Achilles heel, because it can't afford to be patient, and this kind of gets it trapped in what I'm going to call the frustration paradox, whereby the pressure of diminishing fuel prevents you being able to take the necessary time to position effectively into the target's control zone during the two circle fight, because the fuel might not last long enough for you to actually do that, which means that some element of risk needs to be weighed against the time/fuel, like taking higher aspect shots from less desirable angles by pulling harder than is wise during a two circle fight, increasing the chances of the defensive aircraft, the F1 in this case, being able to reverse into the one circle, which results in resetting the fight all over again if the Phantom plays its cards right, or the F1 winning if the Phantom is stupid enough to commit to the F1's one circle fight. The paradox basically is, do you remain patient, taking the time to set up a better shot that the enemy will have a lower chance of avoiding, which they could actually still dodge anyway, all the while your fuel is ticking away? Or do you risk converting energy into turn rate, playing into the enemy's hands, but potentially saving you a lot of fuel if you actually manage to pull the shot off? So, risky shots to save fuel, or safe shots to waste fuel. There isn't really a winning strategy there, it's all risk. It's just which side of the coin you decide to land on. The Phantoms need to maintain energy to be effective, whilst simultaneously burning through fuel at a rate only approached by the likes of the MiG-29 means that it has the two absolute worst attributes imaginable to bring into a dogfight. The F1 having better fuel endurance and nose position performance allows it the freedom to choose how to handle the fight, depending on the perceived ability of the Phantom pilot. So you can either maintain the rate if you can hold the speed and the Gs better than the Phantom pilot can. If you can't do that, then you can perhaps use counter two-circle tactics, like offsetting the circle or using a bit of the vertical to sort of, like having a bit of an elliptical circle. God's due to turn faster on the down leg and using the speed you gain through that to climb through the outward leg. Even failing that, even when you're in a defensive posture, having lost the rate fight, you can still tighten down using your superior one-circle performance and reverse into a one-circle, or you can just jink the Phantom's attacks indefinitely if you predict his actions well enough, which eventually will run the Phantom out of fuel for a free kill, because the Phantom just won't be able to keep that up for very long. In full burner, the Phantom's fuel lasts for like barely 4 minutes, and obviously it has to get to wherever you're having the fight first, and ideally also get home again afterwards. So if you tie up a Phantom for basically any amount of time, then he's constantly having to think about killing you faster or disengaging, and that's not something that the F1 has to worry about too much, because even in full burner you can probably cruise around for, I would guess off the top of my head, at least 15 minutes, so you're not even in the same ballpark in terms of fuel. The scope of options available to the F1 is absolutely immense compared to the fighting tools that the Phantom brings to the fight, but it's only because the skill ceiling within DCS is honestly relatively low that myself and other, I don't want to toot my own horn here, but other good pilots can make the Phantom work as a dominant dogfighter. It isn't the fact that we're good, it's the fact that we're just good at capitalising on the mistakes made by our opposition. Flying the Phantom is essentially like walking a tightrope in a way that the F1 isn't. The Mirage gets to swing on a harness underneath the Phantom, trying to tickle the Phantom's feet to make it fall. That's kind of how I'm picturing this tightrope walk scenario. The thing is, for me flying the F1 as a dogfighter on the red team within DCS, the Phantom isn't the only thing to worry about. What if there was a fighter in the game that fixed the Phantom's weaknesses, something that can rate around the same as the F4 and the F1, but weighs less, uses less fuel, and has better one-circle performance? Like the F5. That thing that just so happens to be the only other main aircraft of the blue team. So here's the thing. Anyone not new to the channel will know that between the F1 and the F5, my vote will definitely go to the F5. But the reason I think the F5 is better is for the same reasons I think the F1 is better than the F4. The F5 can rate about the same, but it's more dominant in the one circle, which is exactly how the F1 behaves in relation to the F4. Having better one-circle performance used correctly is like having a get-out-of-jail-free card. It doesn't mean that you can easily kill the enemy, and it can't be abused without risk, but it means you can more easily avoid them when defensive flying, and a good defense is often the best offense. Aerial combat is very much a battle of patience versus frustration, so being able to dodge around and be annoying is effectively a frustration generator, and it has a lot more power than you might think. The F5 is perhaps slightly better overall against the Mirage in a rate fight, unless the F1 is on extremely low fuel, but it is far more dominant in the one circle because it weighs less and its wing design is better for pointing the nose. So the F1 is worse off in both dogfight regimes, so it's fucked then, right? Well, no, not completely. The F1 has a bit of an ace up its sleeve. Thrust. Good thrust and endurance affords me the ultimate counter for the F5's frustration generating nose position one circle bullshit. Patience. Due to the thrust advantage, the F1 accelerates better, has a much higher top speed, and with that comes the ability to open up gaps, especially vertical gaps. If you get the F5 to pull lead but miss the shot, all you need to do is simply go up. Repeat it a few times and you can laugh all the way to the back. The energy he lost getting his nose around stops him being able to climb as much, allowing you to gradually work him into an energy trap. A well-flown F5 can avoid this situation by maintaining energy and not being baited into pulling too hard or climbing when it isn't necessary. But luckily for me, these F5s were all too happy to play my game and get themselves energy trapped, i.e. win the best prize ever. Fame through my videos. Yeah, I'm just kidding. There you have it. Leveraging strengths and weaknesses, you can get results even against opponents you might assume at first glance have every advantage over you. So now go forth and populate the red team, because I often get an itch to fly blue, but I just can't see the point if there's less people on red. Unbalancing the teams further is just making the situation worse, and there'd be less for me to shoot at anyway. I prefer a target-rich environment. So please make red target-rich so that I can fly blue and actually have stuff to shoot at for once. That's it for today's video, folks. Hope you've enjoyed. If you did and you aren't already subscribed, why not hit that sub button for alerts? I'd also deeply appreciate you leaving a like and a comment to appease the algorithm gods. And if it's not too big an ask, have a skim through the video description for links to the channel's sponsors, Pimax VR and Air Models. There's also an invite link to my Discord server for those of you looking for a wingman, as well as the channel's membership scheme, which offers early access to uploads amongst other perks, in case you're looking to help support the channel financially. Thanks a lot for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.